I agree with you on that, Dr. Fleming. As a matter of fact, I agree with your one comment you said a while back that Detroiters should have listened to Elijah Muhammad,
Yes.
back in the day, and
Right.
got together and built something for themselves, and had more unity instead of going with these church pastors and everything.
And I'm talking about my family when I said that. I'm not talking about the down and out types, I'm talking about the people who had, halfway some sense and had skills and abilities. We didn't listen either.
Right.
That's what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about the down and outers. I was talking about the people who came up who had education, and we didn't listen either. So we find ourselves in the same boat as everybody else.
Exactly. Well, I tell you what, let me say that you are listening to Urban Revolution on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm One Iam, your host, and my co-host is Miss Debbie. We're talking to Dr. Alonzo Rick Fleming. We're going to be talking to him about his new book, where he talks about the cure to alcohol addiction, which we really want to get into that.
And I wanted to apologize to you. I've been in so many interviews today, man. From the time we got up this morning, we have 3 small children, so interviews, and it just haven't had an opportunity to really sit down and really do a lot of email. And I know I promised you that I'd send you a copy today. I just didn't get around to it today.
I understand. I had 3 children myself, raised them. And
y'all be raising me.
Yeah, and and I know how it is,
Yes, sir.
A full-time job, 3 children, a wife, 2 cars, the house and the garage.
And it's already hard enough to take care of those cars, let alone the wife. Let alone the cars.
Yeah. There you go.
My wife's sitting here looking at me, so I better get it right.
Right. But anyway, tell me again about your qualifications and et cetera. Okay, you're writing a book about the cure for alcoholism. Tell me how you can speak on alcoholism.
Okay, well, first of all, the name of the book is Black Man, the Black Male's Guide to Freedom from Alcohol, or Liberation from Alcohol.
Yeah.
And basically, the reason I can speak on the subject with some sort of authority is due to the fact that during college, my first year or so of college, I got involved in a honor society for the smart people, of all things.
Yeah.
And you had to keep a 4.0. It had to be on the dean's list, top of the class, which I was during every single semester during college. And we spent our weekends celebrating for being so smart. And that celebration was really binge drinking. So when I, after a few months or whatever the case is, I discovered that I was unable to stop drinking.
Oh.
And for a long time, and I was drinking beer. That was my church of choice. Since I was studying science, it didn't appear to affect my studies because I stayed at the top of my class. I studied well, but when all of a sudden it began to take more and more of my life in terms of I noticed myself doing a whole lot of things, having a beer next to me, like I might be studying with a beer.
Yeah.
I might visiting Sharice, got a beer with me. Whatever the case is, I had a beer with me. So I discovered that when I wanted to quit, then there were problems, and I could not quit.
You discovered you were addicted.
Correct. I discovered that I was addicted to this substance. And after some research, I discovered that not only was I addicted to this substance, but this substance also has a character to it.
Right.
This substance, which we see, in Detroit, for example, there are over 870 beer, wine, liquor stores, and then on top of that, you have, you have a couple hundred bars.
Yeah.
So I was addicted to the stuff. So it's everywhere. and this stuff is being bought. It's not just, these stores are not there just to look pretty. People are buying this stuff at record paces. I found out that Detroit was the #1 seller of cognac in the nation.
Oh, in the nation?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's deep.
Oh, yeah. So there are just as many, not as many churches for black males as there are churches for black females. I call the liquor store the church for black males, and as we go into conversation, I'll let you know why we call it that.
Okay. So being addicted yourself, and you've somehow found a way to free yourself of that addiction.
Yes. Fortunately, I was studying. I just could never do this Alcoholics Anonymous thing because I could never come around to saying that my nature was an alcoholic. My name is Dr. Fleming. I am an alcoholic. I could never bring myself around to that, confessing my being created, because when you say you're an alcoholic, you're literally saying that you are created in a way that gives you this tendency towards alcoholism, and I just never thought of myself as that. But I still nonetheless could not free myself from the attraction to it and the addiction to it. Yeah.
Now they say that the first step to healing yourself is to admit that you're an alcoholic.
But an alcoholic will never admit that they're an alcoholic for a long time unless they actually. First of all, let me say this: a lot of alcoholics really have a chemical imbalance which allows them to be an alcoholic. Okay, it's really a mind over matter thing. I'm not saying this because I lived with an alcoholic for 20 years.
Yes,
and his was a chemical imbalance that would not allow him, still doesn't allow him, to let that alcohol go.
Okay.
Because it's something that they say to be addicted to alcohol. There's something that you're missing in your life, and you normally replace it with the alcohol.
That's exactly the point of the book. There's something that you are missing in your life, and you replace it with the alcohol. That's exactly the point of the book. We are suggesting in this book what that missing thing is when it comes to the black male, which accounts for the great number of alcohol abuse. Excuse me. Alcohol abuse among us. I mean, you have alcoholics in all communities, but you don't see the number of liquor stores on every corner in all these communities. You don't see this except in the black community.
Well,
what accounts for that?
Well, because
I would say the misery is greater. The pain and the misery and the poverty is greater
poverty levels
in the Detroit area. And as pain relief, they provide you with lots of alcohol, lots of drugs, and etc., and things that you can reach for rather than your AK-47.
Well, let me say this. The type of alcohol that they would drink or have out in West Bloomfield, they wouldn't have it right around here in the city of Detroit. You understand what I'm saying? When you go to West Bloomfield, Farmington Hills, Orchard Lake, or places like that, you see a different variety of store. You see more wine stores, cigar bars. You know what I'm saying? You come to Detroit, it's just here, beer, wine, liquor on every corner.
Right.
But when you go there, you don't see beer, wine, and liquor. You see wine stores, and you go in there, and they got wine bottles that cost $1,000, because that is basically the choice of liquor for white people is wine, and they love beer too.
Yeah.
But in the black neighborhood, it's vodka, it's Ciroc. And they just keep on making.
It's gin, vodka.
They got to the point to
Crown Royal.
If it don't tempt you just being natural, we're gonna put some green apple in it, so you'll have some green apple with your
Boom farm. I remember how the bums used to stand outside the liquor store and bum quarters from everybody. After they get 4 quarters, they go inside and buy a bottle of Boone Farm and come out and get toasted on that, and then start over begging for the quarters again. And these were men. These were men that were begging from the kids when we was kids and stuff, for the quarters and stuff.
Yeah, well, see, going back to what we started with, we seek in this particular book, the Black Man's Guide to Freedom from Alcohol, to identify what that missing component is, which accounts for the amount of consumption of alcohol and addiction. You don't see the number. If you go out to West Bloomfield, and we lived in West Bloomfield, we own property in West Bloomfield. You don't see the number of beer and wine stores or liquor stores in West Bloomfield that you see in Detroit, which tells you, in fact, when I was living in West Bloomfield, I was still drinking somewhat, but I had to drive. I couldn't walk to the store in West Bloomfield to get myself a brew. I had to get in the car and drive to the store. But the fact of the matter is, just as there's a complete saturation of churches in Detroit filled with black women, there is a saturation of liquor stores and beer stores in Detroit and in all black communities across the country filled with black men. We have a chapter in the book called Why Do You Think They Call It Spirits?
Right.
And in this particular chapter of the book, we address the fact that, and I'm not discounting the chemical influence that alcohol has at the physical level. We acknowledge that. I mean, I'm a scientist and I've studied chemistry and biology, and so I know the chemical interactions that go on, and there's not one part of the body that alcohol does not affect negatively. So I'm quite aware of that. But I'm suggesting that there is a spiritual component to alcohol. And this spiritual component to alcohol has a feminine orientation. This is why they call it truth sermon. You know, the female gets you to talk. She knows how to open up, and she knows how to get you to relax, and she tells you how to talk. And you know how it is, brother. We can't do without them. Right. We cannot. No. So alcohol carries the energy of the female, and it attacks the male, the black male in particular, at the feminine level of his being, to feel that separation from him and his female. The female is getting her high at the church, and the male is getting his high at the liquor store. And she's filling her space being married to Jesus, and he's filling his space that belongs to her being married to Budweiser. Yeah. Yeah, that's deep. Why do you think they call it a spirit? Yeah, I can understand that, especially if an Indian gets some alcohol. They say an Indian really get crazy. Well, they no more crazy than we. Right. Right. I agree. I went to the Mackenzie High School reunion this past year here. Over, I think it was it, when was it? I forget what month it was, last summer. But anyway, I was over there, and everything was cool, and everybody was, slapping plays and saying hey. They had all kinds of years, all the way from like the 70s all the way up through, the 2000s and stuff, Yes. Everybody was over there having a good time, big field and everything. And we were over there for a while. Then after a while, after it started getting a little later, I started seeing the paper cups and stuff come out. And the brown bags and all that. And when I saw that, I said, I've only got about an hour or an hour and a half at the most before, things are going to get crazy. So I better leave now. And I left, and I went over to my mother's house. Wow. And I guess about an hour later, people had been shot over at the reunion. Yes, about 2 years ago. No, this was like last reunion, yeah. Last year. Okay, I remember that. I remember hearing it in the news. I had planned to go, but, though I didn't know anybody because I was very quiet at Mackenzie, so you probably walked past me and never noticed me. But, see, it gives, just like a female, alcohol gives the male confidence. Yeah. See, the black male is not validated in America. Not one institution, not the church. The church doesn't validate the black male. I don't care how much they talk about it. That female is married to Jesus. Yeah. And when it comes down to it. Jesus is a white man, right? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. She's married to Jesus. And you are the fill-in because Jesus can't take her to the movies or rub her back at night or rub her feet and all that kind of stuff. He can't do all that, but that's where her loyalty is.
Right.
Because Jesus is strong. He's God. See, in the female, her nature is made to be filled by a God man. And Jesus fits that description of a God man.
Amen.
Only problem is, he's subject to her whims. But it's the same thing with the black male. He's not validated at all in the society. He's killed at will. You talked about Trayvon.
Right.
Shot dead in the street. And what did we do? To show you just how invalid we are, we buy Skittles and dress up like the guy that was shot.
Yeah, and march around begging for justice.
Begging for justice. You're not validated, and you still have not made an arrest. And even if they do make an arrest, there is no justice for us under this system because we did not design it. It is not from our nature, and until we are willing to sit down at a table and hammer out a system of our own, we're going to be talking no more manager. I heard your boy talking about he ready to go down and lay in front of the city, in front of the Coleman A. Young building to keep them from voting on a financial manager.
Right.
This is what the black man does. He goes and lay down.
Right.
He don't stand up. So, and if he does stand up, he won't stand up for his own. He won't build his own. He won't admit this doesn't work. Let me build something for myself and install that. So he goes to the liquor store because this girl makes him feel strong, makes him feel smart, gives him courage, makes him, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This girl makes him feel good. And every now and again, she makes him throw up like any female does. Just make you sick and don't want to be around her. But because you love her so much,
you keep going back.
Get her some more. Because she just make you feel so good.
Amen.
You Budweiser.
Let me say this, that the call-in number here is 347-688-2902. I want some of my listeners here to call in and talk to Dr. Fleming. He's making some good points, some valid points. I'd also like to get into how we get away from this woman.
Well, yeah. I just want to know, why did you base the book on black man?
Yeah, why a black man? Why can't it be any?
Just as many, if you look at the study, there are just as many alcoholic women, there, especially black women. I mean, that are doing
alcohol, white men,
that are doing alcohol. So why would you just base it just on the black man?
Why would I just base it on the black man? Imagine yourself going into the hospital and you got a gunshot blast to the chest. And another guy comes in the hospital and he has a gunshot wound to the muscle in his arm. Who do you think is going to get attention first?
The person with the best health care first.
That's the way it's working today.
That's the way it works today, baby. It don't even got no color to that.
That's a real good point. But in a righteous world, that's a real good point and a valid point. The one with the best health care.
Well, the one that can milk the health care for the most money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in the righteous world, the one with the most severe wound and the one closer to death is going to be the one most likely to get the most immediate care.
Right.
And then we move to the next level. So this is the same situation. On top of that, if I'm taking my child to the hospital and another person is taking their child to the hospital, I don't care how minor my child's wound is. I'm going to be trying to get my baby fixed first. So it's the same case with this alcohol. I just happen to be a black man. I just happen to notice the ravaging of alcohol in the community that I'm living in. I just happen to realize how it's bankrupting us financially, taking the males away from our females, in effect, causing it to where my 3 boys, when they grow up and start looking around for a female, that they're probably not going to have one because there are no men to groom females for them. So that's the reason I narrowed it down to fixing me first. If it can't fix me, then how the hell can I go to somebody else and talk about fixing them? I can't see that.
Yeah, I understand. I was just saying that because, like I said, I was married to a severe alcoholic who had been an alcoholic basically for a very long time, most of the 20 years or 27 years.
Dr. Fleming, you said
and when I went with him the 5 times that I had him committed, it was majority white people in there. That's why I was wondering, why, of course he had good health care for motor companies.
You go back to your health care issue.
Right. But it was majority white folks in there when you go out there in these places and, you come down here like on, what is it, the place over there on the boulevard. What's the place for the alcoholics on the boulevard?
The black folks down here are walking around the streets, laying in the alleys and different things, drunk. Right. We know where they at.
Yes.
You can find them everywhere. You go to the gas station and then they're begging you for quarters, asking to pump your gas and different things.
There you go.
And,
so I want to deal with what the probability of the community that, we're some good talkers. We like to talk about, the professionals need to come, and I'm not saying this about you all. I'm not referring to you when I say this, but I'm saying in general. We need to get the professionals. There was a time when the doctors lived next door to the plumber in our communities, and this, that, and the other, and the judges was in the community. Well, these people that's like that are going to bring certain skill sets with them, and them skill sets are not going to sound like the average Joe. So we have to be willing when people like myself and my wife, who we happen to have an education. We got an education, but we have turned our education towards the healing of our own nation. We're not out trying to work for somebody and get them to validate us, except for our own people, who we are offering our skills to. So Amen. I want to say to the people in your audience, when the doctors and the lawyers and the Indian chiefs and the judges and the innovators want to be involved, step aside and let them work. Let them do what they know how to do, because obviously the people who've been sitting there when the financiers come around, you understand, they don't know what they're doing. The city council obviously doesn't know what it's doing.
Yeah.
See, they can't run a government. But if you got a guy that knows how to run a government, because he doesn't sound like babbling, blithering idiots, he must not be black. Am I being too long-winded here? I think so.
No, but I want to do a whole show with you on this emergency manager and everything. And we're going to get to that on another show probably. But I got a caller here that would like to speak with you. Caller 604.
Right on, Debbie.
Hey there. Who is this, SJ?
Brother SJ.
Yeah.
What's up, SJ? Did you remember my name? I'm not chicken eating tonight, huh?
No. That was hijacker.
I love you all. It has been extremely illuminating and entertaining. And the conversation has swung from hour one, all the way at the start to many topics. And I'm glad you guys are open-minded and willing to discuss this. I mean, there's different perspectives that I'm enjoying. I really appreciate your guest. Doctor, thank you for coming on. I think I represent the chat at the station. I don't know how many we have currently, maybe 15 or 20 people that have been discussing this as you progressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been having a fair amount of discussion and also quite a few laughs. And lots of write-ons for Debbie.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she's getting lots of call-outs. Women are important. I think women are the balance to it. I was quite interested in the doctor's representation of it and his discussion of his efforts in alcohol rehab. I'm a volunteer whenever possible therapist, for the people that I know in terms of alcoholism and other drug uses that cause us to lose perspective and balance.
Right.
I think I was going to ask Doctor, I was thinking, Doc, do you think moderation, is possible with somebody that's a stone junkie? I think it is, but I've always been challenged about that.
I have tried. I have a brother who can drink once a year and never think about it. I'm the type, I pick it up. My brother used to say, how does he go? One is too many and a million is not enough. So
right on, bro.
with me, moderation is not picking it up. I fill that space by getting into my female, which is the natural filler for that space. And that's what the perspective I'm writing from. I'm saying that because we have, and it's not to denounce any other method, I'm saying that this widespread use of alcohol among black males starting from such a young age, and you see the difference is represented by the stores.
Yeah.
Is because there is no validation. And this thing is filling up what would naturally be there validating them. And this female, she makes us do all kind of things. So moderation, and directly answering your question, the only moderation that I can see personally for me is to not to ever pick up a drink. But for some, yeah, like I said, my brother, he can drink and never drink for another 2 years. But I thought that it was the way I learned. At first, when I first tried to quit, I said, it's just because I learned how to drink the wrong way, because I binge drank when I learned. That's the way I learned how to drink during college. Binge drink. Drink until you fall out or all the beer is gone.
Yeah, take a keg down.
Incidentally, this the fraternity that I was in was 98% white.
Well,
98%
that's the biggest on the college campus.
They're the biggest drinkers.
Well, they didn't outdo Dr. Fleming, though. I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, and I noticed this as more and more blacks got involved in the fraternity, we could drink the white kids under the table.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They could supply the food, we could drink it.
I think of that Viking folklore. Where they would just drink until they fell over dead.
Yeah. Well, that's the way we were. We could drink.
SJ, in answer to your question, what I believe is, because I'm going to be like this. My husband worked 33 years at Ford Motor Company. From 3:30 in the afternoon to 2 in the morning, he could be running drunk. At 4 o'clock in the morning, he was sober as a lamb till 3:30 the next day, every day. So I think in their subconscious level, they can control that. Because let me tell you, I've had some knockdown dragouts where at one time I was trying to get him in rehab. And I was trying real hard, because I was like, you really need to clean yourself. You really need to clean yourself up. I got a feeling because he was just running drunk, just every day. And it got to the point he was driving drunk. And 5 times the police brought him home, knocked on my door.
They brought him home.
They brought him home. And I was really surprised because I know his level had to be 10, 20 times over. Now, trust me, he did have like 3 DUIs. But, they kept bringing him home. And I'm like, what? Why are y'all bringing him home? If that was me out there driving drunk, you would take me straight to jail. You would never bring me home. But they would actually bring me home, knock on my door and say, is this your husband? And I'm looking at them like, I'm trying to force him into a rehab center because I can't sign him in if he won't consciously go because he had been in so many times. The Ford said the only way he was going back was consciously really wanted to go, or I would have to have an incident where it was going to be putting his job in jeopardy.
But he must have been lovable because they didn't haul him off, 3 times. We're talking 3 times. We're talking, man, the guy was a charmer.
Man, no, he wasn't a charmer. He was a real piece of work.
He was a piece of work.
He was a real...
Must have got along with cops pretty good.
I don't know. Maybe they felt sorry for him. But then again, you know what? Really, the part that really affected him as well was that he actually suffered from seizures. He had seizures all his life.
Yeah. It starts getting to your health.
It starts getting to his health. Well, actually, it got to his health before that because he was suffering with seizures since he was 19 years old. Ooh. But he drank that alcohol like it was nothing. So it was like I was constantly facing some type of issue with that, you know, whereas what do you do? And it got to the point that the reason why I left was because it started to drag and pull me into that that vicious cycle, and I just was starting to lose myself. I would go anywhere rather than go home, you know, and I found myself going to the club saying, okay, I want to go have a drink, or I want to go just drown my sorrows or forget about this is going on, because the attitude was...
It becomes part of the lifestyle, right?
Right. And so I felt like I was losing myself, and I just finally just walked away because as being a spouse of this person, after 20 years, it starts to consume you, and then the next thing you know, you're wrapped up into that vicious cycle.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's been the path that many people have followed.
And like I say, I zeroed in on black males because of my own experience of my peers, and experience at college.
Sure.
But there's a lot of things that are driving this excessive, and I like I say, I know in other communities there are alcohol, excessive alcohol usage, but you notice the alcohol stores give you an indication of the amount of alcohol being consumed. So you only need to drive through any black community, and you can tell that there's an excessive amount, an inordinate amount relative to anyone else. Yes. But there are other issues that drive this usage also, and we list this in the book and we talk about it. For example, there are a lot of child support issues. A lot of people it undermines your confidence when you, one, are unemployed, do not have the money to pay for a child that you birthed into the world maybe at a younger age, now at an age where you're starting to get your head together, and now this baggage is there. Then there are people who have many children by many different females, and they're like in their early 20s. Yeah. That stuff works on you. And then on top of that, police warrants, if you can't pay for the babies or the child support, Michigan puts out warrants. So they
put a felony on you now.
A felony warrant out for you. These type of things has a psychological effect, which that girlfriend always seems to ease. No social validation, as I pointed out. There's very little social validation. Even with me, when I walk around wearing this Pow High Deep on the end of my name, there's still not social validation for me. I'm still second guessed, no matter what kind of education I have. Yeah. A criminal history, all this stuff undermines you. Hatred of your father because the father was not there. You know, you have now children who are birthing children. They didn't get to know their father. There's a natural hatred that comes from that. Dysfunctional families, all these things drive that psychological attraction to get soothed by that female.
Okay, Dr. Fleming, let me ask you what the solution is. You've come up with a solution?
Yes, sir. So the solution is a 21-day method of dealing with it. And all this does is very similar to the methodology we use in the Cure for Detroit. I coined this phrase that my wife keeps trying to attribute to Albert Einstein, but I keep telling her I'm just so smart that she might think that I'm him. But
yeah, good mentor. Certainly got some good quotes, I'll tell you that much.
She says, the problem and the solution exist in the same place. So, we...
You know what my favorite one is in that regard? Is the kind of thinking that got us into this is not the kind that's going to get us out of it.
Exactly. Now that is an Einstein quote. The thinking that caused the problem is not the same thinking that can be used to solve it. You have to elevate above that problem. You have to elevate above that thinking. And by the way, One Iam, that's the exact thing, my exact approach to this whole financial manager. How did we expect that the thinking that got the city into a $6 billion-dollar hole. Even if we gave them that $280 million and left them alone, they're going to go out and party with that. But the point is, the solution is somewhat very similar to AA in this respect. The first admission is that I can't see past the alcohol, the beer. Is there a life for me beyond alcohol? Because what happens is a wall begins to build up, and you can't imagine life without it.
Context.
So, pardon?
Context. It basically establishes a window of belief, a context of behavior.
See, you're using those scientific terms that come out of someone who's in a professional counseling situation. This book is designed for the homeboy.
Sure, I like it. I like the approach. I say go for it, man. It's good. Got to get it into the jargon of the victim.
Exactly, because like I said, as long as they tried to tell me I was an alcoholic, I was talking about their mama. I ain't no damn alcoholic. Start calling N-word.
That there has to be a replacement, because the problem with the alcoholic and the drug addict is they're always trying to get back to that first high of which you'll never ever get back. So you can drink alcohol for 40 years, and that first time you really, 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 really get drunk and the bed is spinning around and around and around and around, you'll never get that back. And it's the same thing with people who smoke marijuana and who do crack cocaine and cocaine. They're always constantly still walking around trying to get that original high. So therefore, they start to consume more alcohol based on that fact. Like, I want to get back there because that feeling that I first got the first time, I got to see if I can ever get it back. But you'll never get it back. So therefore, they go into consuming, drinking like 6-packs, 20-packs of beer at night. You understand what I'm saying? So I think you got to find something to replace what it is that you've lost when you first get that first high.
I feel what you're
That's
saying.
where we're going. See, because I'm suggesting that the excessive use of alcohol, the fact that we have children all over creation by different females, tells you that there's something feminine in nature about that. And that we're trying to set the stage to where we can not only release ourselves from this chemical dependency, but to begin to rebuild our families. So we take the fact that we are a naturally spiritual people. That's a fact. We've been, we're naturally spiritual. A lot of our spirituality has been hijacked by superstition, but the fact of the matter is we're spiritual people. So we have certain rituals. We have the ritual of understanding, the ritual of prayer and meditation, and the ritual of action.
Right.
Just like that female, that female, and I'm calling her a female, she makes you confident. And she gives you confidence because she deals with the male at the level of understanding. Because you notice when you get blew out, you sit back and you start philosophizing. And you know everything.
Right.
Or you speak a sober man's mind.
You know what? You know what I think really contributes to the problem is the fact that when you have somebody that's bored that doesn't know how to entertain themselves, you always have that temptation. And I think teaching people how to keep themselves entertained and busy, and alive is where it's at ultimately. In the new generations coming up, especially.
Dr. Fleming is right on, because you look at the ads and et cetera that are in the stores and et cetera, they got the most beautiful women.
Right. Well, they're keyed to status gain, and this is the big one that humans are susceptible to. Status gains.
And it's like when you get that bottle, you're getting this woman right here.
Yeah, you're going to gain stature.
See, you hit the nail on the head. They're tying it because they know the energy of it. I'm talking about the spirituality, the spiritual aspect of alcohol. If you notice, even in the advertising, as you so well said, they tie the alcohol to a beautiful female.
Right.
Because it has that feminine origin. And she makes you feel smart, don't she? Make you feel handsome. Make you feel cool. I mean, every time I want to go, I like seafood. I love seafood and wine. That's just the bottom line. But when the first time I went out with my wife and had some crab legs and a seafood platter, the most difficult part was I'm with a beautiful female, but something was missing. It was that other female that made that female sitting across from me look so good. Yeah. Because they had tied this thing so close to the feminine energy that I literally related being with my wife to drinking. And on top of that, and I'm going to tell you this and y'all going to laugh at this, but when I first let it go, I had difficulty feeling sexually prowess.
Yeah.
Right.
It happens. No biggie.
I blew out. It wasn't that I couldn't get a boner. It's just that, can I say that?
Yeah.
You couldn't get the feeling because the alcohol subdued.
Exactly.
I've been there. I know all about that.
Okay. You feel me, don't you now?
Look, I'm just saying. He used to say, well, let's have sex. And I'm like, well, why are we going to have sex? Because you don't really even realize that you're not moving.
Exactly.
So, I'm not being funny, but I used to be like, what are you going to do, tickle me?
You just sleep on
one would hope so, at least.
No, seriously, when you get so far drunk, you think that you're really doing stuff. You're not really doing it. You're just going through the motions of doing it, but you're not really doing it. And sex is one of those things that when a man drinks so much alcohol for so long, his ability to even rise is gone.
Yeah.
So it's just like he's shooting out water and doing nothing. He's just laying there just like slow grinding on you, and it makes you feel nasty, and you just want to just be like, I just need to get rid of this.
Yeah.
Well, mine was a little different. Mine was sort of opposite. It's sort of like I needed to drink to make the whole moment romantic enough to, be stimulated in that manner. And I'm telling the whole damn world this, Sharice. I'm talking to the whole world, telling them about my sex life.
Yeah.
But the point is that so you get the gist of it that we are actually taking that whole relationship and connection that has been made between the female and the drink and showing you that the real person that feels the desire for this girl is sitting in those churches. And she has her filler, too, which is the male. Maybe we'll get in that another time we talk about the devil's advocate, because that's what the devil's advocate is about.
It's not that easy being a devil's advocate, let me tell you.
I got joked. I was flying home from Vegas one time, and someone said, "You the guy that wrote that book called The Case Against God, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, you got to be a bad mamma jamma. Anybody that'll sue God." Devil's advocate, a spiritual man's case against God. So the whole plane got a kick out of that when they found out that I was the guy that wrote the book, The Case Against God, saying, "Man, you got to be one bad brother. You gonna sue God himself."
Well, I asked her about it, and she's cool with it.
Pardon me?
I asked God about it, and she's cool with it.
Yeah, God is a female. God is a female, whether men realize that or not.
Let me say this. You are listening to Urban Revolution on Revolution Radio. This is Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And you know how we bring it. We just come real with it, we do the nasty work here, the dirty stuff. Give it to you like it is.
Yes.
Real talk on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Dr. Fleming, before you get away, I want you to give your website, your phone number, anything you can give where people can contact you, get your books and et cetera. And
okay. The best way to get in contact with me is if you want to take a look at the book, any of the books, The Devil's Advocate, any of our math books that we published, the Cure for Detroit, go to curefordetroit.info. Curefordetroit.info. That's the website I'm using right now to host all of the books. You can actually purchase the books from there or download them, any one of the books we have from there. Curefordetroit.info. And this one is the Black Male's Guide. If you notice, I call it a male. I'm trying to appeal to the younger guy, if you will, who is has found himself caught up in this whole alcohol issue. and it catches him at an age to where the lights have not totally gone out. But you can get anything that I've written from going to curefordetroit.info, or you can look me up on Facebook at Alonzo Rick Fleming.
Okay, Alonzo Rick Fleming on Facebook.
On Facebook.
Or curefordetroit.com.
.info.
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 Okay, .info.
Yeah, curefordetroit.info. We kind of getting away from those cons because we want to give out information. So it's the .info.
Okay.
Not to mention they only cost 99 cents for the domain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll work. .info domain.
It's always good to save your resources, eh?
There you go. Yeah, okay. Now back to that.
Hey, Doc, can I interrupt Brother One?
Yeah.
Doc, it's a real pleasure to have you on. I'm glad you came. The chat room folks have been having a great time with the ideas that we've been working with this evening. So you stimulated a lot of conversation and thought, which is what I think it's all about.
Awesome. You know, and I know that you'll notice as you read my writings, I tend to lean towards dealing with African-American black people. The reason, you know, I looked in the mirror the other day and discovered I was a black man. And having a history, that has to be repaired, that's what, you know, like I said, the analogy of the hospital. How am I going to go out and fix anybody if I'm walking with one leg and a broken arm and two fingers on one hand? I need to get repaired first, and then I'm in a position to repair someone else. So I'm living in a community where, you know, gunshots are going off, bad education. I got to clean up my own house, as my wife said before. You know, so that's why you see me addressing it this way, because I feel that if the stuff that I'm dealing with can fix me and my community, then other people will look at it and they will say, well, maybe it'll work for us too.
Amen.
You betcha.
Amen. I feel that.
Yeah. Can I say just one quick thing here? I know I'm long-winded here, but I want to get
No, you're fine. You're fine.
The way this is approached, I pointed out that you have an understanding, a prayer, and an act in it. It's a 21-day process, and basically, the understanding portion of each day has a theme. Like, for example, the first day is the theme creation, and under the creation theme, the individual begins to reconnect his body with the earth. He starts to see he starts to re-examine how his body functions in harmony with the rest of the earth. And there are exercises for that. And then there's a prayer that he repeats slowly. It takes about 60 seconds to do. Very short but powerful activities. And then there's a short act, like, for example, day one of creation. He take a short walk, find a tree, and just lean against the tree to connect with the stability of that tree, to feel what it feels like to be stable and strong and steady. And these things have psychological as well as physical effects as well as spiritual effects on the individual. And each day there is an understanding portion of it that handles the psychology. There's a short prayer and meditation portion that handles the spirituality, and there's an act that handles the physical aspect of it, which brings out the best of the individual and allows him to really open the door to meet that female that's supposed to fill that spot, who won't get him sick after she makes him feel good. Well, I ain't never met a female that didn't take all your money. But
well, I have. You know, this is one of the things you want to avoid is castigating all females with a basic characterization of them. But on the other hand, that's good therapy. I'd like to hear all 21 subjects if you got enough time to shoehorn it in.
Well, that was day one. Day two, nature. I won't go through all of them. And again, day three, is the sun and the sonship. Again, we start talking in that aspect. You're talking about how you're related to the Creator as you recognize the Creator. You know, that comes out of an Alcoholics Anonymous thing, right?
Right.
They talk about the Creator as you understand it. Well, in this particular thing, because there are power issues that we're dealing with, we connect this male to God as God's essence and God's son, if you will. So
you know, my nickname is Sunshine Jim, right?
Okay.
We got a caller. Caller 425.
Yeah, One Iam. I'm trying to wean myself on retiring from calling in, but I had to call in on this deal.
Okay.
Only because I worked up a white paper on it. But you know, at the root of all these different problems that you're talking about, you know, it comes down to money, economics. I mean, if you got an 80% chance of getting divorced if you're poor. Not if you're really poor, then that kind of forces you together. But I'm saying that puts stress on the marriage, or a guy's not making money.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel good about himself. He drops into the bottle. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Same with drugs. It comes back to the economics, and I'm just looking at the black community overall and just the massive amount of damage that's been done to it in its totality. Somehow you got to fix the economics. So I was thinking about this white paper I wrote about getting your own money. Now, if you think of like a dollar or printing up your own money to circulate among yourselves, I'm not talking about that. This is more for the mayor of Detroit. Mm-hmm. But tell him to do something really, really bold. Tell him to take money and take a stamp, like a big D, a red D, or a black D. He stamps this money. And whenever that money gets circulated in Detroit among businesses, then the businesses give them like 5% off, like have a campaign.
Yeah, I've
keep the money in Detroit
before.
Right. Anyways, if he were to do that, now the Federal Reserve, I don't think they would even get so upset and say he's defacing the money. I would think, well, as long as they're still using our money, then they could go ahead and, you know, stamp a D on it. But then you would have an economic base that would, you know, can you imagine if the money that was in Detroit, you could recirculate it and prevent more and more of it from coming out?
Yeah.
Or
well, the problem is we would have to actually get the jobs, the people that have the money that's taking it out of Detroit to live back in Detroit. That's our economic problem in a nutshell, in the whole, is that we lost the base of all the people that moved out when they created places like Sterling Heights, West Bloomfield, Farmington Hills, and everything got bigger and better as you moved out of the city. So now, and then they lifted the job requirement for living in the city of Detroit, and that's what made Detroit really start to go down, where they removed the residency.
Oh, I see.
Because if you sit here in Detroit and just watch on 94, 696, 96.
Hey,
everything leading out of Detroit.
There's a lot of history in Motor City.
You would see how much money actually leaves this city on a daily basis, and it's a lot.
Right, and that's electronic money, because white people use more electronic money than blacks. Blacks use more cash. But yeah, just some way you can come up with some kind of co-op or.
Detroit has to have. You know, you're right about the co-op idea. But there's an ingredient that Detroit has not mustered yet that is required. That ingredient is called courage. Courage to do something outside of the box. Courage to put on your bro gang and kick the hell out of that box. Just kick it away. And any and everybody that's in it. The courage, for example, there's a $5.5 million school on Schaefer and Warren called American Islamic Academy. They built that school off the money that's made in the liquor stores in Detroit, a Muslim school. Yeah. Right. They needed a physics professor and someone to build the laboratory part of it. Do you know they hired me not only to build the laboratory, but to train their teachers and then teach their first class of engineers. Every student in that first 12th grade class got a full ride scholarship to University of Michigan in engineering. I also taught their teachers. But the point I'm making is that Detroiters have not discovered one small thing about living, and that is the courage to make a decision that may not look good. You know how you can win ugly.
Courage. Let me say this.
Ugly. You know, I got a golf bag that I was on the driving range, and this is an old skinny, looked like came out of the 20s, golf bag. And the young people would come to the driving range, and I remember these group coming by me, and one of them snickered and pointed to my golf bag, laughing at my golf bag because it was so old. But when they saw me swing that club, all of a sudden, it was not so funny.
Right.
Got your rep.
Right. I won ugly. I didn't look the part. I prefer to get a $2 golf bag with a $400 set of clubs in it.
Let me say this. We are out of time. I want to thank Dr. Alonzo Fleming for coming on. And he will be coming on as a regular. And let me tell you, stay tuned for Prepper Solutions coming up next, so you'll know what to do when this economy finally does fail.
Good night, everybody.
And thank everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week. It's been a great.
Love you all.
Thank you, SJ, brother SJ, and Hijacker.
Listening to Revolution Radio.